Good morning. Today we're going to talk about test taking strategies. So we're going to figure out how are we going to prepare for the day of the test. First thing you want to do is ease the tension by starting off the day right. Really important, make sure that you do it. These are things you should do when you're trying to start the day off right. And you want to practice these behaviors. Get a good night's sleep. Set your alarm. It's really important because if you want to start out the day late and you don't have an alarm going, it's not a good thing. If you sleep through your alarms, make sure you set 2 of them. If you don't find it trustworthy, make sure that you have 2 different alarm clocks. There's nothing worse than starting out a day in panic mode. Then you'll be like in panic mode when you go to your exam. So you don't want to start out that way. Make sure you understand where your test is and what time it is. Really important things. You don't want to sit there and get to where you think it may be and it's not there. And the most important thing is arrive early and review your notes at the very last minute. It'll help you with remembering the answers to the test when it comes to the test by reviewing it right before the test. One of the things is you don't want to fall prey to the illusion of knowing. If you want to find out how much you know, find a friend. Ask them to go with you and study for your test. Find someone in your class that will also study the test. If both of you need reviewing and you want someone to talk over the answers with, find a friend in your class. Test your classmates, see how they do on the test, and you see how you do. The way I became a tutor, again, it's the teacher said to me, well, you'll be the tutor because this will be the way for you to remember it. You will not only learn the information, but you'll be able to reinforce the material that you already learned. So these are really important things to do. Become a tutor. It will help you to reinforce the information. What not to do. Everything's important, but these are things you do not want to do. Don't cram for the test the night before. It'll help, but it really doesn't work. You can't store all this information that you haven't looked over before in one session. You'll remember parts here, parts there. So if you decide to cram, know that we do have a workshop on cramming for a test done right. One of the things that's really important that, again, students don't realize is that the teacher will tell you if it's on the test, it's going to be on the test. If they say this will be on the test, I guarantee you it's going to be there. If the teacher says this is important, writes on the board, highlights it, if you hear the teacher repeating it at the beginning of each lecture, I guarantee you it's going to be on the test. If they write it on the board, remember what they wrote on the board. Probably going to be on the test. So how are we going to talk about taking tests? Before you begin and you're going in your tests, never, before you turn the test in, you need to make sure that all of your answers are filled in. If it's a multiple choice test, don't leave any answers blank. It's better to leave a silly answer than to be, even if you don't know, it's better that you just mark something. You at least have 25% chance of getting it right. So don't leave anything blank. If you have questions that have blank, put something down. Even if it's far-fetched, just put it down. Even if you get a few points out of it, it's better than no points. So, and remember, because you put it down doesn't mean you're going to get penalized, for having the wrong answer. So put something down. If you're answering a blank question, it may be back in another part of the test. So look for similar questions on the test. The answer may be right there in front of you. What makes sense? All of the above and none of the above. Have you ever seen that on a test? When you encounter all of the above and none of the above as an answer choice, do not select all of the above if you're pretty sure that one of the answers is incorrect. It probably isn't going to be the right answer. The same applies for none of the above. If you're confident that at least one of the answers is true, then don't grab, none of the above. A lot of times students will take that all of the above thinking, oh, well, part of the answer is wrong. And they go, well, I remember this first part, but the second part's not right. Don't take your chances. It's not always all above or none of the above. A lot of students tell me they pick those two answers because why would the teacher put it there? Well, they put it there because sometimes it is, just an answer out of the questions that they're asking. When it seems like there's two correct answers in a multiple choice test, it is probably all the above. That's usually when you're for sure know that there are two correct answers, then you probably know the third one is correct. So let's talk about looking for the positive in everything. In most cases, a positive option is probably true if there are also negative ones. So the more information, the better. More often than not, the correct answer usually contains more information than those with options. This is a good way to know, if you must guess, if you're going to guess, look for something that's more of a positive than a negative. So try to stay on those correct answers. Don't look for the not answers. Look for the ones that are, well, even if it's a not, that could be a possibly positive. So, try to look for the ones that are negative based. This is, I know when I do insurance tests, I don't read everything, and that's terrible because usually it doesn't help with getting the answer right. So read the entire question. Read multiple choice questions in their entirety. Don't glance over and see the very first one and answer it. Students will often think they know what the answer is before they're reading it, and they jump start, and they don't actually find the most logical answer. So don't jump quickly into answering the questions. This is a big mistake, and it can cost you, dearly on your multiple choice exams. So make sure you review all the options first. And then if you're sitting there before and you're reading the test question, make sure that you read it over in your mind first. And when you read it in your mind first, it may trigger some information that you're going to pull back. So read the questions, answer what's in your mind, review those answers. It will help you get to the correct answer. Because if it's in there, it's going to be a, this is what I think, and then you see it, just put it down. Most likely it's going to be the most logical answer in there. It seems like it's something you've already reviewed in your head. So we're going to start talking about how to eliminate things. Use the process of elimination. Using this process, just cross out the answers. If you're finding it's really hard, if you cross those answers and then just focus on the right answer. Make sure that you're 100% sure before selecting the answer. That also is really important. Even if you believe you know the right answers first and eliminate those answers you know are incorrect, ensure that the answer is the correct choice. So say you're going through and you cross them out and you cross them out and you cross them out and you're like, oh, I'm not really sure. If you're positive, go back and take that one last correct answer. So this strategy helps. They find out that students pick the likelihood of having a correct answer. So just cross them out, and then when you're finding, unless you're positive it's wrong, going through them and crossing them out will help you eliminate all those wrong answers. Again, don't answer too quickly. Read every answer. I know that people think that that's a no-brainer, but those are one of the most common mistakes. We point out in previous sections the best way to answer multiple choice, but if you assume that you know the answer without first reading all the questions, you may not answer with the best answer. So say there are questions on there, and so I guess this is my point is, look at the test. Make sure you read everything. Don't just quickly answer and not look at the rest of the answers, because sometimes those answers are further down. So select the best answer, and it will help you get through your test. When you're taking the test, one of the things we find out is if you go through the test and you answer everything you know before you move on to more challenging questions, it helps. Let's just get rid of those easy answers and then move on and start tackling harder and harder questions, because the mind's now in a mindset to think, okay, I'm in this test, now I got to start really thinking. There's questions on here that may help me answer the more challenging questions. So those will help you, especially, if you're in any of the standardized tests. Incorrect answers are not penalized in our regular tests. And if you don't know the answer, make sure you take some sort of educated guess at those answers. So multiple choice questions, answer all of those and then go back over the test. Be careful of the negative, the not questions, because then it makes it positive. So cross out those two nots and no's. And even if the question, it has like, I may not, and then they use the word dis or ill or in or in, any of those nors or uns, those are still a negative. Those words are used in a, like dislike, not like, illegals, not legal. So make sure that you take those not questions and know you're turning it into a positive, and then just answer the question. Again, read the questions. No one's trying to trick you. Don't think your teachers are trying to trick you on multiple choice questions. Try to answer the questions before you look at the answers in your own head. Again, if you put those questions into your head, you should be able to come up with the answer if you studied your material and you know it. Make sure you give yourself a few minutes. Sometimes, if you're going in with anxiety, you want a little bit of time to be able to retrieve that information. So make sure you read all the questions first and then answer them. Make sure there's nothing further down. Mark the ones you don't know, and then go back to them. So we looked up the statistics on if you're answering multiple choice questions. The clues, all of the above, only if you see only if you see 2 correct answers, then it's probably all of the above. 1 or 2 similar answers, then you got to look for the clues that one of those is probably the correct answer. If you don't know, experts say if you have 4 multiple choice questions, the answer is usually C. Used to be B, but now it's C. And then with 5, it's usually a D. But these aren't always true. Just not always true. The other thing we know is that if you have the longest answer in the question, that's usually, and it's most inclusive, that's usually the correct answer. These are one of the things that we find students continually do that is kind of interesting. They answer a question true to unfamiliar terms. If you haven't seen it, it probably isn't it. A lot of students say, well, I might have missed it. No, you probably didn't miss it. It's just something that was just thrown in there because someone couldn't think of anything. So highest and lowest answers to if there's the highest number or the lowest, those usually aren't true. A joke. A lot of times somebody will joke and put something in there, who is the person you would see on April 4th this year. And would it be, whatever, and Santa Claus, Easter Bunny, answer the question. Just maybe just to make you feel more relaxed. Extreme modifiers, those are really important, and we'll talk about extreme modifiers in just a few minutes. Remember, the teacher is not trying to trick you. These questions are there. They don't try to deceive you. So when you're taking your test, there usually isn't a trick question. If you think it's a trick question, it probably isn't. So, don't answer those questions and think your teacher's trying to trick you. This is also an extremely important part of taking your test. Don't answer or add to your test question. Don't put what if in the question. Well, what if? Well, what's your body temperature? What's your normal body temperature? 98.6. Well, if they're saying that, and then all of a sudden you put in, well, what if they have a fever? What if they just got out of a freezing cold, pool or, ocean or whatever? There is no what ifs. Just answer the question. What's the normal temperature of the body? We don't care about what else is going on. We don't care if they're somewhere else or if they have a fever. This is the question. This is the answer. So don't put what ifs. No one cares about what ifs. That is probably the most question I hear from students when I used to retest questions to students, and they would say, well, what if? Well, there is no what ifs. That's not what the question says. There is no change your body temperature. I just want to know what the normal is. Don't, there is nothing what if. So make sure you don't add to those what ifs. No one's trying to trick you. So when it comes to answering two alternative questions and you can't choose between the two of them, go with the one you feel that would be most right. Trust your feelings. It's usually the right answer. So they say researchers suggest that feelings are frequently accessible, and even when your recall is poor. So, for example, we can still know how to feel about a person even when we can't remember the person's name. We pretty much know that. So, go with your gut feeling. Anything that you see on true and false questions that state a reason tend to be false. Another one is words that include things as reason, since often indicate a reasoned statement. True and false statements most tend to be true. If you're not sure, answer true. Even if most of the statements are true and one is false in a statement, the whole statement is false. So you may have like a statement, is this, and this, and one of the answers is wrong, that full statement is false. So don't, just because you see three true things and then the fourth one is dead wrong and you know it's wrong, the answer is still false. Okay? These are usually how you can tell when an answer may be true. The statements are going to have usually, frequently, seldom, some, often, sometimes, much, unlikely. So you're going to have these statements, and those are usually true answers. What are going to affirm false statements? When it says all the people are 24 years old. Well, you know that's not true. All the people in the world aren't 24. None of the people in this world are female. Wrong again. It says best, always, only. These are extreme modifiers. If you see an extreme modifier, it's usually wrong. So make sure when it states a reason, that's going to tell you it's false. So if you have these extreme modifiers that are totally, all the people, never, it's going to be false, because everything isn't always all. Everything is not only. Those give reasons why they're false statements. Matching test. Examine both lists when you go in there. Use one list to start with. Don't keep going back and forth. Just use the one on the left and then go to the one on the right and start crossing out the ones you can match over. Those are the most perfect ways to take those matching tests. So make sure you're doing that way. And if you don't know, do as many as you can, and then start eliminating after that. Cross out them only if you're sure it's correct. Again, if it's possible to use logic to match these items, which you are uncertain, that's a possibility. Just use some sort of logic. Be careful if there's possibly more than one answer to that question. Those are really hard because there may be just one thing that may be a little bit different. So be careful to make sure you read exactly what it says. Fill in the blanks. If there's a grammatical hint, like the word before has an A, an E, an I, or U, it's probably going to be, preceded by a consonant. If it's an N, it's going to come up with something that's a vowel. So make sure you know that. Most times people are doing A, comma, N, so then you got to take your chances. But know that if it's an A, it's going to be a consonant, and N is going to be a vowel. When the question contains two blanks in that space, give a two-worded answer. Again, take your chances. Put something down. Don't leave anything blank. No matter what you do, don't leave it blank. These are some things that I find students don't know, so I'm just going to give you a list of them. When it asks you to analyze, it's telling you to give details to explain any complex in order to understand. Compare. That means tell me what's the same, tell me what's different. Contrast. It means, I want you to tell me what the difference is. Define. It means give a short answer. Describe. We're going to give you an answer, but we're going to give you more detail. Discuss. Do it in a logical order. If you do it in logical order, instead of going all this and this and this, try to put it in logical order so that, it's easy for the teacher to understand, and that it's coming out and you're just saying, okay, so let's start with 1995, this is what happened, and 1997, this is what happened, 2000, this is what happened. Do it in a progression where it's logical and it's in order. Evaluate. And you can see this is give the positive and negatives, and then draw a conclusion. Illustrate. Show specific examples. Justify. Support your answers. So if you're trying to justify why are so many people moving to Florida, or why are so many people moving up north? I wouldn't move up north because it's too cold for me, but I'm pretty happy right where I am. Outline. Just give the idea, an overview of what's going on. Prove it. It's like where you got to come up with facts and things to support that idea. And summarize. What's the main idea in a short answer? If you're having trouble, like you're in this test and you're having trouble, what you want to do is you want to underline the keywords. That's one of the most important things to do in a test. Those key answers will retrieve information that you may have gone over in the test. Cross out the answers that are incorrect. Try to answer all parts of those questions. Untangle it. If it's, 3 questions and just, okay, this is the first thing I have to answer. I'm going to put that right here. The second thing I need to answer, I'm going to put it down next. This is my third one. If you don't feel comfortable, try to rephrase those questions in your own words. And again, never leave anything blank, and don't panic, because if you panic, the sympathetic nervous system will kick in and you'll have a hard time remembering, because it'll go into fight or flight. And it's going like, oh, I don't want to be here taking this test, and I'm gonna just take off. And so your brain doesn't want to think then, it's just trying to find a way to survive. And the most important thing to do, the very most important thing is take 30 minutes. Go over your notes. Studies show that if you start studying the day you go to lecture and you take notes, it helps to understand the information that's given to you. So write it down, what you don't understand. Write down what you don't understand so that the next day in class you're able to ask the teacher. So, when you think about it, just take 30 minutes. That's 5 minutes to review, 20 minutes of hardcore studying after you go to class, and then 5 minutes break. And you want to do that. You want to review before you go to your class. You want to go to class, and then you want to go over your stuff, making sure that you understood everything. That will help in even the time that you need to study at night. So going over during the day, and we're going to talk about a schedule that you should be setting up so that you don't have to worry about nights and studying once you get home. Here's the forgetting curve, and you can see if you take the time and remember, if you wait 6 days, you're going to forget. If you keep reviewing day after day, you're going to stay and you're going to remember. So in my conclusion, again, I want to say, don't give up. Students really tell me a lot of times that it is really hard to be in college. I agree. I completely agree. It's supposed to be. Otherwise, everyone would be here. Everyone would be here. And remember, nothing's worthwhile comes easily. And this concludes the day of understanding how to take tests and test-taking strategies. Good luck, and I hope to see you at our next workshop.